keep somebody enslaved, you don't educate them. Look at this country earlier with the slaves. It was against the law in all the southern states to teach a Negro how to read. And the people who did so at their own peril. And many of the white people who were teaching the slaves how to read and write were hung. So women, to keep them stupid and uneducated and not knowing history, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, throughout everywhere, were not educated. Or they were allowed to read basic words. They could read a laundry list. They could read a list of directions for what to do in the household. But they couldn't read, or they'd be taught to read certain parts in the Bible that the husband thought were a good idea. Like the rule of thumb. Do you know what the rule of thumb is? You couldn't beat your wife with a stick that was thicker than your thumb. That's the rule of thumb. And sadly, tragically, the Old Testament is filled with women giving up themselves and giving up their rights as people, giving up their dignity to prove their loyalty to their husbands. Women are supposed to be loyal to their fathers and do whatever the fathers say and let the fathers marry them off like a bag of potatoes to some slob who happens to have more money, who may or may not be a decent guy. Don't have any rights, don't have any decision-making. In Orthodox Judaism, they like to say that the wife rules the household. No, she doesn't. They just give her the right to scrub it and clean it and change diapers and sleep on the floor when she has her menstrual cycle. That's not treating a woman with dignity. That is not treating God with dignity. Because your soul is a part of God and her soul is a part of God. So by being abusive to somebody of the opposite sex, forgetting men abusing themselves and abusing each other and fighting and shooting and killing and being in wars, forget all that stuff for the moment. I'm just talking about interpersonal relationships right here. They are abusing God. And when I say to people, would you abuse God? Oh, no, what's wrong with you, Linda? How could you ask me such a question? I can't believe you'd ask me such a thing. Well, you're abusing your wife. Your wife has a soul. Your dog has a soul. People who abuse animals to me are the lowest. People who abuse children are the lowest. Because dogs and cats and birds and leopards and tigers and elephants all have souls. Like it or not, it's their soul. And their soul is just as important to God as your soul. So the idea that humans are superior spiritually isn't true. You don't see flocks of canaries starting world wars. You don't see packs of pussycats roaming the street, raping and pillaging. So when you abuse somebody else, you are humiliating and denigrating your own soul first, and their soul second if they go along with it. If they fight you on it, they are protecting the dignity of their own souls. If they don't succumb to the Stockholm Syndrome and go along with the abuse, they're protecting their own integrity. Even if it costs them their physical lives, we are all going to die of something. No one lives forever. Even the Highlander had to die off eventually. Remember that series? It was a really good show. No one lives forever. And you are better off dying in a state of dignity than you are in humiliation. And that has nothing to do with two men fighting a battle. It has to do with your state of mind, the state of your soul, and whether you're living with a graciousness. So why do women turn against each other? And these old dynasties and these old kingdoms, because they wanted their kids to survive. Because they were afraid somebody would come along and kill them. And very often the father did kill them. Mythology is filled with the father killing the kids killing the father, somebody killing off the mother, everybody's killing off everybody else. What mythology does is give you archetypes. Just like astrology gives you archetypes of people. And you can identify yourself in your own personality traits and seeing your own failures and successes in mythology. So women, being the consensus builders, wanting to rule by committee, is the democratic way, is the God way. It's taking everybody's opinion into account, and that doesn't mean everybody sitting around the council is right or has a certain level of wisdom, but giving them the dignity of speaking their mind is wisdom. And then reaching a consensus where everybody has a portion of what they need. Men will say, I killed the deer, I eat it first. Women say, here's the deer meat. Who needs the most? Who's a little sicker? Who has been hungry for a while and has been going without? And they distribute the food fairly. Who gets the most corn? Who needs the most corn? Not just who can buy the most corn, but who needs the most corn. The older I get, the less I'm thrilled with capitalism, because capitalism is greed. It should be the opportunity to gain success and to bring new opportunities for success to a community. But if you look at Wall Street in the last 10 years, and the creative accounting, they should all be working for the mafia, and sadly many of them were, that's theft. That's greed, that's ugly. But men want what they want when they want it. And women want what they want when they need it. So the idea of fair distribution should be something that men learn about. And there are men who have learned that lesson. And there are men who are kind and have learned the lesson of graciousness. And we're going to take a break in a minute, but I want you to think about how you view the opposite sex. Do you think women are just a piece of trash to be used? Do you think men are just a wallet to support you? Do you think of people as people with individual personalities, but all special in a certain way? Even a thief has a creative mind. Yes, they belong in jail, but they have a creative mind. Maybe they're great artists. Maybe they're good parents. They're just crooks. So how do you think of people? And when we come back, we're going to talk more about that and what you can do to change your mind if you happen to be unenlightened. So stay with us. This is Linda Bennett for Metaphysically Speaking.